Now let's welcome our guest, Calvin Wells. He is a venture capitalist who is featured in both the Hulu and the Netflix documentaries about the festival. He's also the creator of the infamous Twitter account Fyre Fraud. Hi, Calvin.
Anna, very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on this afternoon.
Yes, of course. In case our viewers don't know, can you give us a brief overview of how you play into the whole Fyre Festival situation?
Yeah, I live here in New York and kind of work in a bizarre confluence of music and finance and venture capital, and I'm also quite social. And it kind of came across Billy McFarland sort of before he created this sort of now infamous failed music festival. But I was asked very early on from friends that were pitched to invest in this thing, how legitimate it was and whether or not I thought it was a good idea to invest in. And quickly came to the realization the answer was no, and so spent quite a bit of effort and time and energy to try to expose it, and ultimately failed.
Why do you think people didn't heed your warnings?
It's hard to argue with Emily Ratajkowski in a bathing suit. I don't know.
You think people are really going to separate their money over a woman's scantily clad?
Yes, I think that's and I think part of it was the power of social media influencers. Basically outwitting me at every turn, and so I really tried everything I could do up until, including having articles published in the Wall Street Journal, and then finally relented to creating a fictitious Twitter account, an anonymous Twitter account, and posting what I knew to be true, but ultimately wasn't able to stop the festival.
You were featured in both the Netflix and the Hulu documentaries. How have you reacted to seeing the documentaries blow up recently?
Well, it was interesting because, you keep in mind, this festival was almost 2 years ago. And then, the filming for the documentaries was, 7-8 months ago. And so it was something you kind of forget about. And then all of a sudden, the sort of the hype, brings it back into the cultural zeitgeist, and suddenly having the two festivals, having the two documentaries come out at the same time, added a lot of conversation, I think, to the momentum. And so it's been really interesting seeing, how people have sort of taken it, whether the memes have been created or, the poor Andy guy.
We'll get to that.
But anyway, it's been really interesting, like that people, sort of latched onto this as sort of a big cultural thing and something that they attach the millennial terminology to.
Calvin, why do you think that the audiences of these documentaries have gravitated to the story?
Yeah, I mean, look, Dana, that's a really good question. I think that it sort of hits all of the buttons, right? You've got we've got a very divided culture as it is. Things are very polarized. It's very easy to laugh at the millennials, and this is one thing that sort of we really sort of stuck our shoe in our face with this one. We made a huge error, and it sort of like shows like the power of social media and the stupidity of some of the people that fell for it, in addition to the financial machinations of a pretty savvy fraudster.
Well, and also speaking about finances, the Hulu doc made some headlines because they reportedly paid Billy McFarland, the Fyre Fest creator, an estimated $250,000 to appear. Netflix reportedly also offered to pay him, but he didn't show up. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that he's got legal judgments against him. So, he's got $24 million worth of judgments right now. So if he did receive the money, technically that money is going to get paid to lawyers or to victims as it is. I think it was really important from a storytelling perspective to get it, because the guy, like having it in his own words, I think added a lot of value, at least for me as the viewer. So do I think he actually is going to take that money and pay back? No, I don't. I think probably it's in somewhere down in the Bahamas already. And I think that he will continue to do that. But as far as like paying him to be part of the story, I don't really have an issue with it.
Right. The Netflix doc is also under fire because of who their partner is. The Jerry Media, who was involved in the Fyre Fest marketing initially in the first place. Do you think that the Netflix doc is ethically compromised because of that?
Yeah, so the answer is no. I don't think it's ethically compromised. I don't think that Chris, the director of the Netflix film, was had undue influence put on him for how to produce it. Am I annoyed that the guys that made money off of the creation of the festival also are making money off of the failure of the festival? Yeah, but I work in finance, and so that's sort of our trade. We try to make money both ways. But I really. My hat's off to those guys, because I really tried, very, very hard for 7 months to kill it, 6 months to kill it, and they just outwitted me at every end. So as far as like a worthy opponent, I was very impressed with the power of what they were able to accomplish.
And when you say outwitted, you mean being fraudulent in their activity.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it was, the answer is yes. Although like they weren't being fraudulent, it's their job to market the festival, and so I think that they were very effective at doing that. And it was my job to try to destroy the festival, and I ultimately did not succeed. So,
but do you think they were aware that they were promoting and marketing a festival that never was going to go off successfully? I
think, and this is me speaking for myself, right. It's my belief that they were at least aware of the machinations that Billy, maybe not the extent to it, the full extent to it, when it comes to financial crimes, but certainly I think they knew very early on that they themselves weren't being paid as vendors, and so I find it hard to believe that they thought other people were being paid along the way.
Interesting. One standout character from the Netflix doc was Andy King. You referenced him. He's also known as the Evian water guy. He's also known as something else that I don't feel quite comfortable saying here.
Yeah, if you want me to say it, I'm fine with it.
You can say it.
No, it's fine. The dick sucking guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's become a meme after his quote saying he almost gave a BJ for a truckload of Evian water bottles. How did you react when you saw this in his interview?
Well, I kind of feel bad for the way that this has sort of gone for him, because I thought it was a very telling moment where you think about this guy, struggling for 6 months to try to pull this festival off. Mm-hmm. And, being so exasperated, it's almost like a Stockholm syndrome type of thing where they were trying to accomplish one more thing and just trying to escape and get out from under, what ultimately collapsed. And so I thought it was like a very telling and intimate moment that sort of showed how wild this whole operation was and how in it these guys, these vendors were, and so I kind of hate that it kind of it's painted that way, because I thought it was a very intimate telling of how disastrous this thing really was from an internal side. Mm-hmm. That you would, if you'd pitched that to him 6 months before, like, hey, we're gonna sign you up. Also, we may need you to suck some dick for some bottles of water. He would have said, this is insane. I'm never going to do this. But I thought it was like very good at, he's in there after 4 months of struggling to pull this festival off. And if this is what gets it done, okay, like I'm finally willing to do it. And so I thought, yeah, I mean, it sucks that it's entered the lexicon that way. But, But
what you're saying is it shows the level of desperation
that's right.
that people were at that point, especially just needing bottles of water.
Right.
Do you wish that you became part of a meme like that?
No, I'm so thankful I didn't. And that's, one of the good things about being very uninteresting is that I can sort of just pass through this whole thing being a commentator and not participant.
Obviously, there's two documentaries, the Hulu and the Netflix. Right. In your opinion, is one better than the other? I think they both take a very different approach. So the short answer is no. I prefer, learning about the financial crimes, and neither one of the documentaries really got into that. Because do your own.
Let's hope Amazon Prime or HBO really takes it and runs with it. Mm-hmm. There's one thing we need. It's more Fyre Festival documentaries.
The world
needs more Fyre Festival documentaries. But no, I thought they did a very good job. I thought Hulu did a very good job of sort of showing the overview from beginning to end of the festival, and I thought Netflix did a really good job of showing what it was like behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So there was kind of a very complimentary, package if you watch it.
If someone can only watch one Netflix Hulu doc, which one?
I think the Netflix one's bonkers. I think if you're interested in how the festival collapsed, the Hulu one's probably more interesting take.
Billy McFarland is currently serving a prison sentence of 6 years.
Yeah.
Is that satisfying for you to see?
No. I believe that he knew this was a fraud from the beginning. I believe that he's got cash that's hidden. I think he's got assets that are earning
On
yield for him.
somewhere.
And I think he'll come out of in 4.5 years time served. And probably have somewhere between $500 and $1 million. And I think about what my undergraduate degree took me in time and cost, about 4.5 years, and I came out on the other side of that degree with a lot less cash than Billy had. So I think as far as Senate's guidelines, if I could steal $40 million and live like a hitter for a year, and then have to work 4.5 years in a minimum security prison, I'm not sure that there aren't some people out there that would take that trade.
Do you think you played a part in making it happen that Billy is behind bars?
No, I sent some information to the Justice Department, FBI, that I had, and I will continue to work with the receiver and tell him where I think capital has been allocated. But no, I think this thing was a cut and dry fraud from the beginning. Mm-hmm. When you have a collapse of that magnitude, especially something that's international, with the type of investors that he had, I think that the FBI had a pretty easy case presented to him. If
Billy's one of the villains of the story, then are you one of the heroes?
No, I don't think the story has any heroes. It'd have been a hero thing if I could have ended the festival. And there would have been no documentaries made, and people wouldn't have had any of their money stolen from them. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the whole reason I was doing it anonymously, is that I was hoping to kill it. I was providing tips, and we would have just gone off, the wayside. I think there aren't many heroes in this story, and I think there's a lot of villains, including a lot of guys that got paid quite a bit of money and lived very well that didn't face any prosecution.
Is Ja Rule one of those villains?
Yes, that's exactly who I'm talking about.
Because he was just seen on TMZ getting interviewed by a paparazzi. They asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to do another festival."
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Ja Rule and his involvement? Should he be facing prison time too, or behind bars now?
I mean, my thoughts are sort of similar to the Fuck Jerry guys, which is like, wow, I need to hire his PR and legal team if I ever get into trouble. Mm-hmm. Because somehow he's been able to negotiate co-founding this festival, living very well. I mean, you got to keep in mind that these guys were renting mega yachts and taking PJs back, or private jets back and forth from the city to the Bahamas. They're living off of investors' cash, and then ultimately profiting or personally living very excessive and well on the cash of consumers. Mm-hmm. And there is that great scene where he says, "It's not a fraud. It's not a fraud. It's not a fraud. It's maybe false advertising," which of course is a fraud. And so I think he was very intimately aware of everything, and I'm not certain that there wasn't a side deal worked between Billy and Ja Rule where he says, "I'll roll over and take all the heat on this thing, in exchange for you holding some cash for me for a little while." Mm-hmm. And there was that great moment in the Hulu documentary where he gets asked a very direct question, and he says, "Hey," and Billy sits there and he looks off screen, and then comes back and says, "I'm a big boy. This is my thing. Ja Rule had nothing to do with it." And the viewer doesn't know this, but there was a large bodyguard that was pictured off screen that works for Ja Rule that was there in the filming, and so I think that was sort of very indicative of the likely back channel deal that these guys had.
Should Ja Rule be in jail?
Yes, no question in my mind. And keep in mind there were a lot of things that he was doing that that weren't even covered in the documentary. I mean, one of the big things that I think I uncovered, and again I'm going very close to libel. But I'll qualify it, is that I believe that they were working with a local drug dealer on the island. But basically what you would have had is a bunch of party goers and festival goers flying internationally, going through customs and TSA, and so you're not going to bring any recreational drugs through that, which are typically festival drugs. Mm-hmm. And then they would have had a restrictive captive market where they could then have provided exclusive to a drug dealer to then sell significant marked up drugs and then take a portion of that. So I believe that these guys were running frauds and side hustles a dozen different ways. And so I don't understand how he's escaped prosecution, especially being someone that has been in jail before for financial related crimes.
There are other influencers that have been a part of the marketing campaign for Fyre Festival. You have, like you said, Emily Ratajkowski, and then you have, I think, Haley Baldwin was seen in there, and Alexandria Ambrosio, and Kendall Jenner. Should any of these high I guess, A-list models be responsible or influencers be responsible at all for any of this?
Yeah, well, absolutely is my answer. And I think that, first of all, they may have some tax issues because I think a lot of them got paid significant sums in cash, likely went unreported. So you may have a receiver uncover some things as far as that's concerned. But my problem with the whole thing from the beginning was that it was presented as though it was this organic, like, hey, I want to be involved with this, that kind of thing. I have no problem if you as an influencer are designating a post, this is a paid post, this is a paid advertisement. And now I'm being compensated in exchange for putting this orange tile up there or indicating that I'm going to go to this festival. My problem with all of these people is that none of them did that. There was no disclosures. And so then, I understand how you're protected, from selling something that's not legitimate when you don't disclose that it's an advertisement. So yeah, I think absolutely. And if I were a victim of this, I would name every single one of them in a lawsuit.
What do you think of Jerul's new app? Critics say it's just the Fyre talent booking app, but with a different name.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this app was never going to work. The Fyre app it will never work, and the Icon app will never work. You're not going to be able to disintermediate William Morris, CAA, Paradigm, the largest talent agencies in the world, so that you and I can book direct. Like, there's a lot of legal that goes into this thing, so this app will never work anyway. But I think it's like, I think it's indicative of either how sociopathic these guys are, that somehow we're going to reinvent the exact same thing using the same technology, and we're not even going to worry about the fact that it has all this negative connotation attached to it. And also, like, no one wants to book Ja Rule anyway. I actually tried to book him for my own birthday party. I thought it was going to be funny on his app. So I'll let you know if he ends up accepting or not.
Yeah, let us know.
I thought it would be kind of interesting.
That would be. You'd be like, yeah, I'm the guy.
I thought it would be really funny to have him.
What are you doing with the Fyre Fraud social media account now?
One of the most interesting things is like the takeaway of one of the major takeaways. It was like, hey, it's really dumb to follow people you don't know on social media and listen to them. And so one of the interesting things is that, like, my Instagram account got like 25,000 ad requests, ad requests, like, over the period of 2 weeks. I'm not doing anything with the Fyre account. What I wanted to do was, we help promote and help promote the GoFundMe for the restaurant that was victimized down there. I called them and I said, look, would you like to have the Instagram account? Maybe you guys can tie it in with some of your marketing in the restaurant. And so I think ultimately that's what we'll do with that account is actually provide ownership to the restaurant if they want it and have something positive come out of it.
That would be.
The other thing is, like, man, there's so many scams going on right now that maybe it's interesting to pursue a life of reporting on scammers. So that's the other use. If she doesn't want it, I think that maybe it becomes a platform for exposing either sensationalized journalism or lies.
Well, you just went there with it, but are we going to see another Fyre Festival type fiasco again in our lifetime?
Look, I don't know if it's Fyre, if it's a music festival. I think we are living very much in a post-truth environment, and this may be getting a little heavy for your bold viewers.
I think so. We're pretty smart.
It's tough to follow the Bachelor experts, but I think we're living in a post-truth world. So I think you're seeing it with Anna Delvini, who was like a fake socialite that was living in Manhattan. I think you've got the great work by the Wall Street Journal and the book Bad Blood that talks about Theranos. You've got Martin Shkreli. I mean, you kind of have this whole group of millennial fraudsters that are very much faking it until they're not making it. And while that may work in some industries, when you start dealing with actual money, it becomes financial crimes. And so I think we kind of grew up we're growing up in a post-truth environment where whoever has the blue check mark is the one telling the truth, and I don't think that's the case.
No, especially that there's actually services now where you can rent a private jet scene.
Yes.
And sit on it and pretend that you're going somewhere. And I think we've gotten to this keeping up with the Joneses thing to a point where it is on the level of a Billy McFarland.
It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous, and I think I don't see I don't see how it terminates. I don't see a terminal end to it, though. I think it's I think people just have to stop caring. I think at some point, I mean, we're here in Manhattan. You walk down to Soho or Tribeca, the great cobblestone streets there at Prince and Mercer, and you've got a dozen different influencers out posing with themselves and taking photos. And I'm just thinking, like, this is. If we were aliens looking at this, you would assume the dogs are the valuable ones, that we follow around and pick their poop up, and that everyone else dancing in the street is a complete, idiot moron. So I don't know how influencers maintain their influence, but I think that I do think that we are living in a kind of a post-truth environment.
I like that, post-truth. Well, I'm interested to see what you do with the Fyre fraud account and if you'll be exposing some more scams, because we need to know what's going on and be more well-informed before we jump to conclusions about what is truth without knowing all the facts.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't set out to be a journalist, but
sometimes the best people never went to journalism school.
There you go.
They just accidentally fall into it. But thank you for your insights.
Thank you, and congratulations on everything that you got going on here, Diana.
Thank you.